Evil Incorporated, a Pentex story. Hayden's room was a spider's web of multicolored threads. Red lines crossed blue lines, tying together in key areas and pinned in place on large-scale maps of the country. Surrounding the maps were printouts of newspaper clippings, photographs of men and women in business suits, criminal arrest records, lawsuits, and dozens of names written in thick, block letters on sticky notes. Amanda stood in the doorframe, just trying to take it all in. "I leave you alone for a week, and this is what you do," she said, shaking her head slightly. "Where did you even find so much red string?" "I'm on a first-name basis with Emily at the hobby shop," Hayden said, not turning around from where he stood at the far wall, putting up another series of sticky notes. "We're getting coffee next Saturday. My hope is she doesn't ask me how the knitting project is going." "Is that what you told her you're doing?" Amanda asked, absently, her eyes tracing the paths of the various cords. "Uh-huh," Hayden said, running a hand back through his hair and admiring his handiwork. He picked up his coffee and sipped it. He always drank iced coffee when he was on one of his obsessive streaks. It meant he wouldn't be surprised when he picked it up and found it had gone cold. "So what are you doing?" Amanda asked after a few silent minutes had passed. "Exactly." Hayden slowly worked his way back through the tangle, taking care not to spill his coffee, until he was standing on a masking tape X on the floor in the center of the room. Then, like a teacher giving a lecture, he started pointing and reciting. "The recent toxic dumping spill we covered was committed by the Martyr Chemicals Company. I checked their records, and they're a skeleton organization with nothing but a few offices that are mostly run by automated phone systems and one or two clueless desk jockeys just trying to keep up appearances. The stuff the company was dumping, though, was a byproduct from the manufacture of the new heart medication Genestrol made by Lillian Pharmaceuticals." Hayden took a sip of his coffee, and then gave one of the blue strings a tug to indicate a destination near the corner of the room. "Ryan Burr sat on the board of trustees for both Lillian and Martyr." "All right, I'm following Amanda tried to say, but Hayden cut her off. "A fellow member of the Lillian board was Iron Eagle arms manufacturer Tobin Faltz," Hayden continued, pointing at a picture of a vulture-like man in mirrored shades with a death's head grin. "Faltz has connections to half a dozen white power organizations and homegrown terrorists. But he also has positions with Social Structures, Inc. SS Incorporated, as a lot of folks call it, runs private prisons that have almost as many health violations as they do red flags in their staff hiring process. Social Structures is connected with Flag and Faith, who provides ministry and other services to their detention facilities. Flag and Faith is a proselytizing evangelical group that can only barely call itself a charity under the law, and they've been implicated in a slew of misdeeds, from conversion camps to abortion clinic bombings, and they've got connections to the anti-vax movement along with other fringe groups." Hayden went on, weaving together a tapestry of inbred capitalism, special interests, political corruption, mysterious deaths, and shady connections. Drug manufacturers, multi-level marketers, gun dealers, political talking heads, hacktivist collections, and more. Each of them seemed to be a mountain at first glance, standing tall and apart from everything around it. But each of them had roots, and those roots always seemed to touch. After about half an hour, Hayden finally talked himself out and sipped at his coffee again. The ice was starting to melt. "That's very impressive," Amanda said, leaning against the doorframe. "But what does it mean, exactly?" "It means they're all connected," Hayden said, gesturing with his empty hand at the web. "And the deeper I dig, the more and more of them seem to be in bed together. It's like Woodstock for bastards, and every time I think I've uncovered everything there is to uncover, I find there's something or someone squirming just beneath the surface." Amanda gave Hayden a long, quiet look. He'd showered recently, and he'd shaved. He looked as put together as he ever did, but there was something in his eyes. It was hard to tell if the sharp, inquisitive mind that had solved so many cases had struck the mother lode, or if his brain had finally started to eat itself. "It's enough to drive a person crazy," Amanda said. Hayden shook his head slowly and tossed back the rest of his brew. "I've got a dozen more names to add to this, and then I'm going to try coming at it from a different angle. You want to help or not?" "Sure," Amanda said. You sure the hobby store you're shopping at isn't connected to all of this somehow? No, Hayden said, his face deadpan as he opened up a manila folder on a side table. But I hope not. The only other one in town is, so I don't want to show my face there if I don't have to. And I sure as hell don't want them taking my money and using it to pay off terrorists in the Middle East so they can acquire illicit artifacts from looted museums and cultural sites to put in their mansions. Tell me you're joking, Amanda asked. Wish I was, Hayden said before he snapped off another piece of tape and got back to work.